Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another episode of Dan and Frankie Go to Hollywood. I'm Dan.
And I'm Frankie.
There you go, that's who we are. And so we are once again here to discuss movies for, hopefully only a couple of hours, but knowing us, it may be 5 hours. I don't know. But we shall see. So, first of all, thank you to everybody who has been tuning into our podcast over the last couple of weeks. We really appreciate each and every one of you. For a first-time podcast for the both of us, we've been so happy with the numbers and everything, and just the general chat that we've been having with people. It's just really making it all worthwhile. So thank you all very much. And not only that, of course, we've been having a lot of fun with people watching the movies that we've been talking about. I know that Fraser Jubb in Scotland, not only did we restore his faith in movies, but he went and watched Mallrats. And my fiancée Kylie has finally seen Deadly Prey.
Surprised you haven't made her watch it before now.
Look, I realised that. I was surprised myself that I put a ring on it before I had shown her Deadly Prey. I mean, that ordinarily is a deal breaker for me. You know, when I go out, when I go out on the town and I meet women and they're like, hey, you're good looking. I'm like, I know. The first thing I say is, have you seen Deadly Prey? And 10 out of 10 times they say no, and I'm just like, I don't want anything to do with you. She is a very special lady, but she's even more special now that she has seen Deadly Prey.
And enjoyed it.
And enjoyed it. Well, how can you not enjoy Deadly Prey? I mean, I know it's more of a thing for us because, we're friends with Ted Pryor, who actually listened to our Deadly Prey podcast, which was all sorts of amazing. And I don't know if he's listening to this one, but thank you, Ted.
Added me to the friends list?
Yes, okay. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. You are part of the...
I am happy to be there.
Yeah. So anyway, what's been going on the last couple of weeks? How you been?
Not too bad. I've been adjusting to getting back to work after the Christmas break, which is taking a while, especially with train issues last week because they decided to shut down half the train line. So my journey took half an hour longer than normal, which means 2 hours each way.
Mm-hmm.
But back to normal this week. But of course, it's Monday as we're recording this, so Mondays are a struggle.
They are. And with those train issues, being a recent Deadly Prey convert, did you have that famous quote from Colonel Hogan in your mind? Those bastards. Those stupid, dumb bastards.
I did not. I do not have photographic memory of all the Deadly Prey things after one watch.
Well, that's true. I mean, I do have at least 29 watches on top of that, so yeah.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but look, we're not here to talk about trains. We're not here to talk about Fraser Jubb. We're here to talk about movies. So what's been going on? Have you watched anything interesting lately?
I have, and you have as well.
I have.
Been a couple we've both watched.
It was a rhetorical question. I already knew the answer to it, and I threw it out there anyway because it's what you do in a podcast. So what you been watching?
Well, maybe we'll kick things off with the one that I have the least to say about. But it was quite an interesting movie, which was Saltburn, which a lot of people are watching and talking about. And I remember when I watched it and I said to you, I didn't really like this all that much, but you have to watch it because it's just one of those movies that has things that you can talk about.
Oh, does it ever? Every time I go into my bathroom now, I've got to shield my eyes from looking at my bathtub. Just wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, I was curious about it because, of course, Promising Young Woman was, oh my God, such a phenomenal film to me. And so I was very keen to see what Emerald Fennell was going to come up with next. And yeah, I thought the trailer looked interesting.
I really liked the trailer.
It
got me interested.
Yeah, I mean, well, it obviously did its job then. But yeah, then I started hearing all these weird things and some of the things you were telling me about it, and it really piqued my curiosity. And so
yes, I remember that. I was like, do you know about the bathtub scene? And you were like, is it related to the bloody finger scene? And I was like, no, that's a separate scene, but similar kind of level of...
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd read on a Facebook post something about a bloody finger scene, and I was like, okay, and then you said something about a bathtub, and I sort of put two and two together, and I thought, okay, if those two are related, then I had an idea in mind. I'm not going to explain what that idea is, but it basically involved what the finger scene was, but in a bathtub. Yeah, anyway. But look, overall, yeah. Like, what were your overall thoughts, though? All the ew factor aside.
My overall thought was I really liked the butler. The butler Duncan. He didn't do a lot, but I liked seeing him. I actually thought more about him and wondered about him off screen than... Because I didn't like anyone that was on screen, really.
Yeah.
Which I know is kind of the point, but sometimes unlikable people are interesting and I enjoy watching them, and other times they are not. And yeah, so I mean, interesting performances, and everyone's going on about Rosamund Pike and her performance in this, which I can see is an amazing performance, but yeah, I just didn't really care about anything.
Yeah, I mean, Duncan was such a big deal. You even found fan fiction based on the character, didn't you?
I looked. There's not a lot, and it wasn't really anything good, but, I had to try.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I thought overall, on a technical level, things like the cinematography were outstanding. The production design was amazing. The acting was great. It just didn't do anything for me, really. It's the kind of film that I watched it once, and I'm like, okay, I've seen it. I don't think I would watch it again. I definitely wouldn't buy it. So, yeah. But that wasn't the best of the films that we saw together, so to speak.
Definitely not. It was the worst.
Yeah. I do believe that we watched something a lot more entertaining than that one.
So we also watched Anatomy of a Fall, which is highly anticipated. As soon as I saw the trailer, way back whenever the trailer was released, I was looking forward to it. I missed it at the Brisbane Film Festival because I can't do film festivals. I live far away from the city, and they are all kind of just a couple of screenings at night in inner city theatres. I don't drive, so it's a hassle. So, but anyway, I've watched it now, and I really loved it. And I like it when everyone says a movie's amazing and I watch it and then think it's amazing as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I did too. I found it was really gripping the whole way through. I mean, it was one of those films, ordinarily, if I'm that intrigued about a plot, I can just sort of switch my brain off, just roll with it. But this one, man, I wanted to jump on Wikipedia and find out what happens in the end. Like, I just couldn't wait. I was so enthralled by the plot. The performances were just out of this world from everyone with 2 legs and 4 legs. Because, yeah... I'll get to the dog in a minute, but look, for me, I was really enthralled all up the way until the ending, which obviously I won't say anything about it, but for me personally, it just flatlined at the end, and that it didn't sully the experience, like the journey getting there for me, but I just thought if the film had a more impressive ending, I would have rated it higher than I did. But that,
And I'll just say for anyone who doesn't know, the plot of the film is that a woman is on trial, whether she murdered her husband or not, who died when he fell from the upper level of their house. So it's really interesting just being in the courtroom, hearing details coming out, changing your mind about things as different details get revealed, which, it's using your brain while watching. So it's good to have those films every now and then. Sometimes it's good to just enjoy a film and have fun, and then other times it's really fun to think about. And then there's also the plot involving her young son as well, and what he remembers hearing and everything. So it was very, it was a really good performance.
It was complex, and I totally understand that the point of the film wasn't the ending, because I'm sure there are going to be people who will yell at me and go, oh, but, if you base the whole film on the ending, you didn't understand it. No, I did understand it. I got that it was all about the family element and the breakdown of the family element, and how things like a trial can bring those things out into the open, and what is secret and what is not. And I mean, there were so many complex issues and themes and stuff, but and that part I really dug. But and look, I would watch it again. I would probably even add it to the collection, I suppose. But the true hero of the film was the character Snoop, which was this dog that, when I then looked up on Letterboxd all the people's reviews of it, so many people were talking about giving the dog an Oscar and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like, yep, I completely agree, because there was that scene. I think I sent you a message all in capitals. How the fuck did they get the dog to do that? Because there is a scene where the dog is playing ill, and or near dead. And I thought, okay, it's obviously a fake dog. But I thought, that is a really realistic looking fake dog, until it starts moving and becoming good again. And it's like, oh my God, that was the dog playing the role of a sick dog. Like, how? How is that possible? I paused it and messaged you immediately. I was just like, what the hell? And so it was good to see that a lot of people shared my enthusiasm for that dog's performance. I don't know the name of the actual dog who played Snoop,
Missy.
But there you go. So yeah. But social media's just gone nuts for that dog. So yeah, rightly so.
Also, shining star in the film is the lawyer with his glorious hair. Like, it's been a while since I've been so distracted by hair on screen. Just like, it was just styled so perfectly, and it was really, like, a lot of scenes were in English because she was a German who'd been living in London and then moved to France, so she didn't know French, like, very fluently. So they talked in English a lot, but then, of course, in the courtroom and everything, there was a lot of French spoken, and so I had to look away from that beautiful hair to read the subtitles, and it made me wish I knew French.
See, I thought you would have been more enchanted by the man's eyes, because, God, he reminded me of Brad Dourif. I'm serious. He was like the Wish version of Brad Dourif. If you order Brad Dourif from Wish, that is what you get. So yeah, no, I just couldn't stop thinking that he had the same eyes, those kind of narrow eyes that were full of character.
I didn't think that. Like, I did notice, like, his face and everything, but I didn't get the Brad thing. But maybe I was just distracted by the hair too much.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, those two films ranged from interesting to amazing, but there was one film that I watched, and oh my God, I was so super impressed. So there's a film called The Lodge from 2019, and it was one of those things where social media had blown it up to be like, oh, this is the scariest movie on Netflix, and all this sort of stuff. And any time that you see that written anywhere, you're just like, okay, that's going to be an instant 1 out of 10 pile of absolute trash. But Kylie said to me, okay, I really want to see this film. And so she showed you and I the trailer for it, and the trailer admittedly looked okay. And so it's essentially about a couple of kids that go with their dad and his new girlfriend, soon to be wife, to stay at a lodge out in the middle of nowhere in the snow. And just weird things start happening. And the directors intentionally did this thing at the start where they left you with clues that it might be a ghost story, but it might be something else. And so you're like, what is going on here? And throughout the film, there was just such an air of tension and unease, and it's kind of hard to get too deeply into it, but you really left guessing what is going on. And then the ending pays off, though. It solidly pays off. And there are some things that happen in this film that shocked the hell out of me. To the point where a couple of days later I had to watch the whole beginning of the film again, because I will not say what happens, but it's 7.5 minutes into the film, there is a moment that happens that just rattled me, and I had to watch that again because it was done so goddamn well. And yeah, overall, it wasn't scary. Wasn't really like a horror film as such, but it was just very interesting. There's all this stuff about because like the new fiance, her backstory alone was interesting. When she was a little girl, her dad, who was played by her actual dad in the film too, was the leader of a cult that all the members of this cult wound up dead. I can't remember if they killed themselves or if they were murdered, but she was basically the last one who survived, and it was like, wow, that alone is just such great, character backstory to make something interesting. And all of those elements played into it, and it is a solid film, that one. I cannot recommend it enough.
Do love a good cult story, and I know that one's been in my watch list probably since it came out, actually, because I do remember that doing the rounds. It's funny when a movie comes out and then years later suddenly it's huge on Netflix because, I don't know, I guess the right people saw it that posted about it, and then it just spread around again. Yeah, it's just ordinarily, if I see one of those things, it's like, I mean, you've seen them so many times, it's like, reports say this is the scariest movie ever put on Netflix. It's like, oh my god, no, it's not. But no, in this case, it's not the scariest, but oh wow, it is one of the better films I've ever seen on Netflix. So I was very impressed. Well, I watched a horror one just recently. There was actually a post online that just had 4 images, stills from the movie, and they were enough to get me to watch it. So
nice.
I think like that day or the day after, I rented it and watched it. So it's called Livid. It's a French film by the directors who did The Deep House and Inside.
Ooh.
So I know you'll be happy with that.
Oh, yes. Inside is brilliant, and Deep House I loved, yeah.
Yeah, this is sort of similar to Deep House, but in a different setting. So it follows a young woman who's training to be a nurse, going around to people's houses. So she's with an older woman, spending the day going around, and they go to this old house that's kind of out in nowhere. And this old lady's in a coma, and she used to be a really famous dance teacher, so she's got the money to be cared for in her house. And apparently the story is there's treasure somewhere in the house.
Oh, nice.
And so the young woman ends up talking to her boyfriend and his brother, and they decide that because this old woman's in the coma, they're just going to break into the house at night and go searching for the treasure. And so, of course, they get in the house and all these weird and awful supernatural things start happening. And I
As
won't
they
say like what happens because I don't want to spoil it, but it was actually like really interesting and like sort of, well, I mean, I knew some of what was going to happen from looking, even though I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, just waiting for things to happen. It was really well done. It kind of goes a bit weird later on, and it's not just me. I've seen lots of people mention that they don't really understand exactly what happens in it and what the ending kind of means, which I would agree with. But even though I don't really know exactly what the whole deal was, I still found it really interesting.
Right.
So,
And was it scary? I mean, I know you and I have different
yeah.
levels of scariness, but
It had some creepy moments with things, but I wouldn't call it scary.
yeah, right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
still a good one.
Based on the directors, yeah, no, I would definitely love to see that. So, yeah, no, thank you for the recommendation. Well, one film that I saw was one that appeared on so many top 10 lists of last year, and it actually got me thinking, man, I should have seen it because I wonder if it would have made my top 10 list as well. And that was, of course, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, and a lot of people, yeah, were like, this is the freaking best animated film in the history of cinema and all this sort of stuff. It was massively overhyped. And I liked the first one. I didn't love it. Did you see the first one?
I haven't seen it.
Right. Okay, interesting. Yeah, to me, it was definitely a film worth checking out. I mean, I did buy a 3D Blu-ray of it and stuff, and I think I've only seen it twice, though. Like, so, yeah, I thought, okay, I should check out the second one, and, yeah, it was okay. It definitely wouldn't have made my top 10 list by far, and I apologize to anyone who absolutely loved it. Look, I'm not saying that it was a bad film by any means. I just found at 2.5 hours, I thought the runtime outpaced the plot. Like, there wasn't enough of a plot to stretch across 2.5 hours in my book. I mean, the plot it's just sort of a multiverse movie, lots of Spider-Mans, and there's a villain that they've got to stop, and that's pretty much it. And they stretched that out over 2.5 hours. And look, visually, it is one of the most mind-blowing films I've ever watched. Every single frame of that film you could use as a computer background or whatever. Like, it was insane to look at, and that kept my interest for the 2.5 hours. There's no doubt about that. I'll wait and see, because it ended abruptly with to be continued. There's going to be a third one, and I'll wait and see how it all sort of blends together as a cohesive trilogy before I kind of say too much more about it. But I was just left a little bit underwhelmed by that one, unfortunately. But good on you, everybody who loved the film. I wish I could be like you, because there you
It's
go.
the main thing I hear about those films is the visual style and everything being so amazing.
Oh my god, they've revolutionized animation. There is no doubt. They have done something that no one has ever seen before. And even this new one was like a multimedia kind of a thing. There was your traditional sort of cell style animation. There were scenes done with Lego. There was live action. There was, there was a lot of different things. It was good, I guess.
I'll get to them one day. Maybe I'll wait till the third one comes out so I can just watch the whole thing.
Not a bad idea, yeah.
Like I ended up doing with John Wick.
Exactly.
Well, I'll take us back to the early 2000s because
All right.
remember I told you that I had Soul Survivors in my head, so I found a copy on eBay. So I decided to watch that on a weekend morning, and I did remember, the thing I remembered was the end, and I'm kind of glad because I think the movie probably works better when you know the end, so it probably works better on a rewatch. I'm not going to spoil why or anything, of course. So it's, yeah, this girl, she's out with her friends. She's about to go off to college and split from her boyfriend because he's going somewhere else, that typical story. And so they're going out to party on the last night before they leave. And then there's some weird people at this weird club. And then she gets in a car accident and her boyfriend dies. And so she's all upset. It's funny when you watch these films that no one's like, hey, do you want to go talk to someone? Because you're not handling your grief well. But instead, she's just, at college, seeing weird things, seeing the creepy guy from the club and the weird girl. And then she starts seeing her boyfriend. And then, what's his name? Luke Wilson is a priest. There's like I don't know if he's like on campus or next to the campus. So she kind of has some chats with him. And so I guess he's the help that she gets because her friends don't really care. But yeah, there's just all this weird stuff going on. And yeah, I don't remember what my first reaction was. I've read reviews, so I know a lot of people hate this film. And don't get it. But I feel like once you know, it makes more sense when you know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, I just think it's fun. And then Casey Affleck is the boyfriend, and, he's a bit dreamy in this, although he doesn't know how to dress for a party. He's like there with like a knitted jumper and everything, and then like the rest of the group is dressed to go out to a club. So that's very weird.
Now, I haven't seen the film, but I do remember the video cover of it from working in video stores. Was that Eliza Dushku in the lead role of that?
No.
No?
She's front and center in the poster because she's the most famous, but she's just a friend of the main girl who is at the back of the poster.
No, really?
Yeah, because
that's
she's
interesting.
Melissa Sage Miller.
Okay.
Is the main character, and she's right at the back. It's like Eliza Dushku, the two guys behind her, and then the main girl's at the back. So it's a bit sad.
Okay, because I obviously would have thought that Eliza Dushku was the lead actress in that film. But
there's a lot of her fans that were very unhappy when they watched it and realized she wasn't the main character.
So they were obviously cashing in on her success at the time because she was obviously a lot bigger then. That's interesting.
And so when I finished that, I thought, well, that was 2001, and I had Highway on the shelf, which I recently picked up from eBay, which is from 2002, and I wanted to see that because it's Jared Leto and Jake Gyllenhaal, and I hadn't actually heard of that until last year or so. There's one that I never saw back around the time it came out, but it's had a misleading synopsis because it talked about going to Seattle for the vigil for Kurt Cobain dying. And so I thought that it was going to be about kind of, grunge kids going on a road trip.
Of course.
But no. That's just something that's happening at the time, and they do end up in Seattle, but they don't they're not that kind of crowd. And basically Jared Leto is a pool boy, and he sleeps with the wife of someone who then is out to get him, so he grabs his friend and goes on the road to get out of town. His friend suggests going to Seattle, so they head off there. And it's a very weird film. Selma Blair turns up along the way and joins them. And I don't know, I can't say I liked it, but I can't say I didn't like it. But what I did not know is that John C. McGinley is in this.
Oh, okay.
playing like a drug dealing hippie kind of character with dreadlocks, and kind of blew my mind. He was hilarious, and every scene
cool.
he was in just made me happy. So I mean,
Right.
if you took him out of it, I would have liked it a lot less than I did. So I don't know if that was worth hunting down, but I mean, well, I'm glad to have watched it because it's it's a tick off the Jared Leto movie list.
I think that was a film that I was almost going to see back then, but at that point I was only watching movies that had Eliza Dushku front and center on the poster, and that one didn't, so I was like, nah, I'm going to skip that
I
one.
definitely preferred Soul Survivors to this. I don't know, this, even though it's weird and kind of doesn't make sense, there's a charm to Soul Survivors that just I enjoyed watching it, with this weird stuff happening.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I finally got to check out the Hell House LLC series of films. Oh, God, I wish I hadn't. No, anyway, let's get into it. So, I had seen the first Hell House a couple of years ago, and I had a digital copy of it, let's just call it that. And I sort of remembered it a little bit, but I'd never deleted the copy that I had, so I thought, okay, I must have liked it. And then I found out that there was 3 sequels, and everyone was going on about how the 4th one is just, it's got like 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. People are saying it is just one of the scariest, flat out most terrifying films they've ever seen. All of this sort of stuff. Oh, I'm not kidding. You go on a Letterboxd and have a look at the reviews people have been leaving it, and people are just saying that, that was.
I wish I got as scared as easily as lots of people seem to.
Well, let me tell you right now, you certainly won't by Hell House LLC 4. No, hang on. What is it? Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. So I rewatched the first Hell House, and look, that still stands up. I remembered why I kept onto that file, because the first 2 acts are really good. There are some solid scares in those first 2 acts. Like, it is, and because it's done subtly, like, it's a found footage film. The basic premise is there's a group of young people who are doing up this old hotel that has a history to it. They're doing it up as like a sort of a haunted house attraction, and of course bad shit happens. That's basically all you need. And so one of the things for me, like, I love found footage films, and one of the things for me though is that there's got to be a reason why the cameras are there, because that to me adds to the realism. Things like Blair Witch Project, Cloverfield, etc. Like, there are always reasons why the camera is there. I've seen some found footage films. I can't remember off the top of my head which ones they were, but they just seem forced. It's like, why would you be filming that, in any particular time? This film, I thought, they had a plausible reason why there would be cameras there, so that was good. There were a couple of scenes here and there that took me out a little bit, and I was sort of thinking, would you really be filming that? But look, overall, it was done really well up until, the 3rd act. It kind of went a little bit silly after that. I kind of felt like, it was maybe, I don't know, it was just silly. But then I heard that numbers 2 and 3 were, not great. So I checked out number 2, and oh my God, that was one of the worst films that I've seen in a long time. I was that bored that I ended up just jumping onto social media and browsing and sort of half watching it. Like, nothing happened. It was so boring. There was no scares in it whatsoever. There wasn't even a single creepy moment in the whole film. I was just mind-numbingly bored. But, you got to persevere. I thought, if I'm going to make it all the way to, Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor, then I've got to watch all of them. Damn it. So I put the 3rd one on, and it was marginally better. There was one scene in it that I thought was very effective. It actually did kind of have me on the edge of my seat, but one scene in an entire film, that's all that yeah, wow. But after that I thought, okay, great, I'm finally ready for Hell House LLC Origins: The Carmichael Manor. And so I just watched that last night, and oh boy, yeah, it was equally as no, it was marginally better than the other two predecessors, but oh my god, how that film got 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes you'll be in a situation like that and you watch a film and you think, okay, like, I personally didn't like it, but I can see why other people would dig it. I didn't get that at all from this film. I got to the end, I'm like, I've seen it all before. The characters were annoying as shit. The scare, like, it just revolved around these freaking clown mannequins. That the whole series, it revolves around these clown mannequins. I'm not kidding. Like, and so by the time you get to the fourth one, Hell House LLC Origins: The Carmichael Manor, you'd like, well, we've seen the clowns, man. Come on, let's do something different. For anyone wondering, because there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not you have to see the previous films leading up to it. Not really. It will help a lot, I will say that. There are a lot of references to things from the previous films, particularly the first one. You could probably really get away with just watching 1 and 4. I don't think you need to see 2 and 3, but even then, I wouldn't even bother with number 4, Hell House LLC Origins: The Carmichael Manor, because, yeah, the first one was really the only solid entry in that series, so... Yeah.
Well, I'm very curious now. That has been on my watch list for ages. I'm not really into found footage, which is probably why I haven't got to it yet. But yeah, I was just listening to the Film Feast podcast with their top movies of 2023, and 2 of the 3 guys had the new Hell House as their number 10, and so I was like, oh yeah, that's the franchise I've been meaning to get to. And but then of course you got to it first, and now you've said all that, I was like, oh, I mean, I'd heard 2 and 3 were bad, and I thought, well, I do like to complete franchises, but perhaps I could just watch 1 and then watch the prequel if they're the 2 good ones. But yeah, now I'm like, maybe I'll just leave that sitting on the watch list for another few years and maybe get to it later.
I wouldn't really call Hell House LLC Origins: The Carmichael Manor a prequel. It does.
Oh, I thought it was mostly set earlier and was the origin of the house where stuff was happening.
Well, it kind of is, but it takes place after the events of 1, 2, and 3. Okay. But there are because this family, the Carmichaels, from the apparently in the late 80s, they had it wouldn't have been a camcorder, it would have been a film camera. And so, like relying on that as found footage, which sort of fills in some of the prequel stuff, but mostly it is still a sequel. But yeah, I mean, I just don't know if I could even recommend them. And that's the thing, like, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, yeah, I totally get why people would put it as their number 1 film. It might not have been for me, but I can completely understand why there are tons of people out there who would just love it. Hell House LLC Origins: The Carmichael Manor, I really cannot figure out why anyone liked that film, and I would love to hear from people with their rationale behind it. So feel free to shoot us an email at Dan and Frankie podcast at outlook.com if you have things you want to say about it. But yeah, no, that was
I have to say, though, when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, I don't use it very much, but when I do look at stuff, I'm more likely to be the person that likes the movie that's got like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
oh, yeah.
It's kind of weird to have it the other way around for a movie like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't, swear by Rotten Tomatoes as, the gospel or whatever, but I do very often agree with it.
It seems the opposite of Letterboxd, where I kind of ignore ratings in horror on Letterboxd because I don't know, people seem really harsh about horror, and there's so many horror films I've really liked, and then I'll look on Letterboxd and the average rating is like 2 or something.
Yeah, but that's the thing with, excuse me, Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. I mean, that's got a 3.1 average on Letterboxd,
Which is pretty good for a horror film.
yeah, and like one person in the top 3 reviews said, without meaning to sound dramatic, there are a number of scenes in the final 20 minutes of this film that rank among the scariest I've ever seen. I'm really not joking. And so, yeah, I'm reading stuff like that. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is interesting. Yeah, the final 20 minutes, I was sitting there. Actually, I was checking the time left to go on it more than any film I've seen in a long time. I was that bored by the end. So, yeah, as far as Hell House LLC, watch the first one and then move on.
Curious, what do you think of the first Paranormal Activity?
Oh, I loved it.
Because I thought that was really boring.
Right.
And I was waiting for it to finish.
Okay, yeah, no, I thought the first 2 in that series, because
I did not continue.
I loved the second one as well. My God, it had some really creative stuff. I think it was the second one that had a bit where they've got a camera to sort of keep an eye on what's happening at night, but it was on an oscillating fan. And there was a scene where at one point the fan is just going around the living room, and then, at one point it comes back or whatever, and there's someone standing with a sheet draped over them, I think, or something. And actually, it's been years since I've seen the film. I might be remembering it wrong, but there was a scene where the sheet just drops. You see it like with a humanoid figure under it, and then it just drops, and it was so creatively done and really creepy. But yeah, I thought, for what they did with those films, I thought they were highly effective. I thought, yeah, the franchise after those first 2 went way downhill, but yeah, no, I really dug them, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of films that you probably wouldn't recommend.
Yes.
I watched this Brad Dourif film, Final Judgment, which was from the 90s. I think it was 92.
Now, is this actual Brad Dourif or Wish Brad Dourif?
Actual Brad Dourif.
Okay, good stuff. Good old Brad Tariff.
In this one, he's playing a priest,
Oh.
Which just adds to the... This film is weird. Like, you know how great he is in Exorcist 3?
Oh, yeah.
How that's just such an amazing performance. If you had never seen him before, and I was raving about his performance, and then you went and watched Final Judgment as your first Brad Dourif film, you'd probably think I was really weird.
I think you're really weird anyway, but
well,
yeah. Wow, okay.
It's a different word. But, I mean, it's entertaining. It was annoying too. This is only available on Plex, which is kind of like Tubi, but way more annoying because it's a free one and it has ads. But unlike Tubi, which has an occasional ad through your thing, this has multiple, like, frequent breaks with varying lengths up to 1.5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was getting so annoyed watching it. So Plex is only for if I'm absolutely desperate, can't find it anywhere else, which I think I have one other movie that falls under that category. But anyway, so this one has a little, like, prologue thing, and then the first scene you see is him walking along, like, through a courtyard, and this young guy chases another guy and is, like, threatening him and stuff. Just out on the street at the end of the walkway. And as Brad's walking, like, I don't think he's even he's not even seen them yet, but he just has this weird look on his face. I don't know. It was just weird. I was like, what is going on? But then he gets into the end of the, like, sort of corridor thing and sees the guys, and he does the whole, like, Timothy Oliphant and Go when the guys hit the girl with the car, and he just puts his arms out and is like, what the hell? And so he does that. The bully gets distracted and the kid takes off, and then so he pulls a knife out on Brad, and then Brad just, like, takes him out, has him up against the wall, and he drops the knife, And so Brad bends down to pick up the knife, and the guy gets free and tries to punch him. So then Brad slams him against the other side, pulls out a gun.
Oh, wow.
And basically tells him to get lost. Because he used to be like a street kid that, came good and became a priest.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, so then he goes to see this girl to just try and talk sense into her because she's been dancing at a strip club and her mum is worried and all of this. And then when he leaves, the girl gets killed. And so he becomes a suspect because I think he hears something. So he runs back inside and finds the body. And so he's trying to find out who killed her. And it's just such a weird film. It's kind of and then he goes to the strip club and meets a friend of the girl who died, and then so they kind of team up it's just the whole weird thing of a priest in a strip club and
you're not selling me on this film.
No, well, I think if you're not really into Brad Dourif, I don't know what would entice you to sit and watch it.
Yeah. So, no, it sounds like one that I've got better things to do.
I mean, this got released as a double feature in America on Blu-ray. And I've seen that Blu-ray on eBay for like $60 or $70 or something ridiculous.
Right.
And there's no way in hell. I mean, even if there was a cheap, $4 DVD or whatever, I don't think I'd be adding it to my collection. I'm glad I watched it because, it was weird. But it's funny. Brad is one of those actors that has like, he's very distinct, like how he is, and it just depends on what he's given, how well it comes across. Yeah. And I think that's why a movie like Exorcist 3 was so great because of what he got to do in that. Whereas this film was, although there was like this really kind of dreamy sex scene in it, so that was kind of nice and funny.
But there was speaking of weird films that you recommended to me, and speaking of weird sex scenes. There's another film though that you put onto my radar
because of Brad Dourif.
There was another film that you wouldn't say made me watch, but when you told me about it, I was like, oh my god, I need that in my eyeballs. And do you want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, well, I was just scrolling Twitter and Bloody Disgusting had tweeted that David Gordon Green was leaving the new Exorcist trilogy. And I was just scrolling the replies, and then I just saw someone who said, I'll do it, gonna bring back Brad Dourif as the Zodiac Killer though. And so obviously I liked that tweet. And then I went and looked at his profile and went, oh, he's a director. He has a movie called, he has a trilogy, the CarousHELL trilogy. What's that?
Now, that is CarousHELL, as in CAROUS, and in capital letters HELL, for anyone who wants to look into what we are about to talk about.
So I went to Letterboxd and I looked it up and I looked at all the other films he's done, and I was sending you like synopsis things and like covers, and there's like cat films, so obviously that's
talking
a
cat
big
films.
Thing. Yes.
Yeah, as soon as you sent me this thing about CarousHELL and you told me that it was about a carousel unicorn that goes on a murder spree, I was just like, I suddenly had Llamageddon flashbacks, and I'm just like, oh my god, I need to see this film. So yeah, Kylie and I sat down and watched it, and oh man, I am in love with Steve Rudzinski's work now, the writer-director, and also who played Joe the Pizza Guy.
Best character.
Yeah, oh, hands down. But CarousHELL, that delivered everything that I wanted to see in that film. It's got, actually, just like Llamageddon, it's got special effects that range from utterly diabolically bad, just like a Photoshop cutout unicorn just floating across the screen. But then some of the prosthetic effects, because there was a lot of practical effects in it, some of the gore effects and everything were actually really good for a film like that. This dude has got something like 20 or so feature films that he's made, and I am so keen to jump into his entire back catalogue. But yeah, some of the effects were really top notch. But the whole thing just, for me, it just had this charm to it. To me, that film just ticked so many boxes. But the highlight was a scene where a girl who has fantasized about unicorns gets to have her way with Duke the unicorn, and I haven't laughed that hard in a movie scene in years. I was screaming with laughter. I had tears in my eyes. I missed most of the scene because I was laughing so goddamn hard. I loved the film so much. I cannot wait to see the next two. I think they're going to be way better than Hell House LLC. I cannot wait to see the Meowie Cat films. I just want to dive so deep into Steve Rudzinski's work. You loved it as well, right?
Yeah, we definitely would have watched the whole trilogy if we hadn't only discovered these within the last few days. So we haven't had time to get to all of them yet. But I think I started watching it the day, on my lunch break from work after discovering them that morning.
Yeah.
I think I sent you a message when I was about 20 minutes in or something.
You did, yeah.
I don't know what to think about this film.
One of the words you used to describe it was wild. You said, I think the message said this unicorn movie is wild. But then, I loved it so much. But then, just yesterday I posted a tweet about how we've just gotten into this guy's work, and I tagged Steve Rudzinski in it, and within a minute or two he had responded and was like, oh wow, thanks so much. He seemed really humble, and I mentioned something about it being a spiritual companion film to Larmageddon, and he responded again, and then we went looking into who this guy is yesterday, and according to his Instagram account, he works as a Marvel character for some Marvel live show. He cosplays as various DC characters. He's just totally into comic books and action figures and popcorn genre films and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just like, man, we have got to get that guy on our podcast and talk to him, because he is our people, this guy. And good on him for doing it, because I know how goddamn hard it is to try and get a feature film made. I'm still trying to do it. And this guy, his films range from 50 to 70 minutes sometimes. He doesn't care. He's just doing it for the love of it. And that's the thing. I think one of the things I loved so much about CarousHELL was you could just tell how much fun everyone was having making this film. And so no, that is a significant discovery. I'm definitely on board the Rudzinski train, if you will.
We're 15 days into the year, and we may have our most watched director of the year.
I know. But we've also, 15 days into the year where, we've done 2 episodes and we've already had so much celebrity interaction between Ted Pryor and Steve Rudzinski and those two. I'm sure there'll be more. But anyway, how about we get stuck into the main section now?
Yeah.
Alright, so as we do with every episode, we are going to be discussing 3 films. One film that the 2 of us have seen before and absolutely love, and we want you to love it as well. And then we give each other a film for homework, if you will, that the other person has not seen. And so, our first film that we're going to be discussing today is the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead. which originally was a 70s classic George A. Romero zombie film, his sequel to Night of the Living Dead, where a group of people hole up in a shopping mall to try and get away from the hordes of zombies that are trying to tear them apart, and the whole thing was basically a very big metaphor for consumerism and that sort of thing. But it is one of the most critically acclaimed zombie movies ever made. It is just such a staple in the zombie canon and stuff. And so in 2004, this unknown director named Zack Snyder, who'd ever heard of him, decided to make a film, and it was written by some guy named James Gunn. And, I mean, it had a decent cast. You had Sarah Polley, Ving Rhames, Mekhi Phifer, a whole bunch of cool people. What was your first experience with seeing Dawn of the Dead?
Which one?
Oh, with the 2004 remake,
okay,
I should say.
Because I was
going to talk about that.
My confession is I've never seen the original.
Oh, okay. That's a juicy little bit of gossip right there. That's interesting. Okay.
It's one of those franchise blind spots I have in horror, is all of those films.
Oh, man, that's going to limit what we can talk about then, because there's so many comparisons I wanted to make to the original. And you folks out there in Radioland, you've heard it first with me. I was not aware of this information, so yeah.
Should never assume.
No, I have just made an ass out of, well, just me, really. Well, with the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, what is your first experience of that film?
I don't know. I saw it. I didn't see it at the cinema. Mm-hmm. I don't think. No, I can't have. So I have the DVD. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was just a blind buy or if I had a reason. I don't know. Maybe because Sarah Polley was in it that led me to it. Could have been. Because, of course, I love her from Go, which was not too long before this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
But yes, I can't help you with memories. I don't have a lot of I don't have memories for every movie I watch.
No, that's okay. Well, I was really excited about it, and I went to see it in the cinemas as soon as I could, and oh my God, this movie blew my fucking mind. I was so into it because it changed the genre. We had running zombies this time around. I mean, previously in all the George A. Romero zombie films, they were all just very slow moving creatures, which makes sense because his reasoning for that was because rigor mortis had set into a lot of the zombies, and so it was hard for them to be animated, which, is a great reason. This time round, James Gunn was just like, you know what, we've done this before. Let's get rid of that. These are going to be Olympic-level sprinters. And so, from that opening scene, I mean, oh my God, the love I have for this film. The use of that Johnny Cash song at the start is so haunting. It is a brilliant song, and it's not like the sort of song you would imagine, around that era of coming out for a movie like this. But that whole opening scene with the little girl and everything, was just so... I mean, it all happens in 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes of the film.
I do love that you just get dropped in it. Sometimes it's nice to just... don't have a build-up, don't follow all the characters and find out who they are and what's going on. It's just like, she comes home from work and she's tired because she's stayed there longer and everything, and then stuff just kicks off straight away.
Yeah, and there was all these little sort of foreshadowing elements. When she's in the hospital, there's you just hear about things happening in other wards about like a bite victim or whatever, and just little tiny clues, and and then you just, in the first 5 minutes, you treated as some mind-blowing cinematography, like the shot where the camera is attached to the car as it's driving. I thought that was really incredibly well done. And then that massive wide shot where she's driving and you see a truck just come into a petrol station and explodes. Like, the fact that they did that from that massive aerial shot was just so well done. But yeah, then, the opening credits with that song, and it's so haunting. All the whole soundtrack for this film. I mean, this was the film, as you know, I am a huge Richard Cheese fan. And this
I did wonder when I heard the song if this was how you found him.
This is how I found him. I'm sitting there and just like, is this a piano lounge version of Down with the Sickness? And I'm reading the end credits. I'm like, who is Richard Cheese? And then, of course, I found out about Richard Cheese and Lounge Against the Machine, and I bought several CDs back in the day when we used to buy CDs. But yeah, that film introduced not only my love of Richard Cheese, but that is the film that inspired my obsession with James Gunn. Because, to me, as much as I love Snyder's direction in this film, it was the script that I thought shone through. And I was always like, who is this James Gunn? And I remember, this was before he was really famous, and back in the MySpace days, and he used to interact with fans a lot on there, and I actually had a conversation with him one night and stuff, and before realizing that this guy was going to be like one of my gods of filmmaking, we just ended up chatting a lot about this supermodel named Josie Marin, who we both at the time had a bit of an obsession over, and I was like, oh my god, cool, something in common. But yeah, well, what are some of the standouts for you in the film? Like, what were some of the real highlights of it?
I don't know. It was fun when I love Andy. He's not a huge character, but he was fun. So all the scenes where they're like picking out celebrities in the crowd.
Yeah.
That was fun.
For me, it was sort of, I thought the overall film, was a clever representation of society in a way, where you have all these characters from, different races and different social upbringings and classes and stuff. And, for me, and James Gunn is so brilliant at crafting characters that are sort of broken people that have to work together. That is, that's every film that he's done just about. You look at Guardians of the Galaxy, flawed, broken people who have to work together and overcome their differences to achieve a goal. And this was the same, and I just, it was so cleverly done. For me, one of the standouts is always going to be the baby birth scene. That was so over the top. And it was so much fun watching it with Kylie, who is, sitting there growing a pair of twins inside her. And we're watching this and I'm just like, oh man, she's going to love this scene so much. It was disturbing as hell. But yeah, the whole film, it was just a rock star of a movie, It had so much...
Yeah, it had really good flow of when the characters meet up along the way to getting to the mall and then meet up with security guys that are at the mall, and just the group dynamic, and as they're figuring out what they need to do and how they can, where to go.
And did you love Anna, Sarah Polley's character? Wasn't one of my favorite moments is when the main security guard, the guy with the mustache that he listens to Pantera. CJ, it was CJ, yeah. Where he's standing there holding that gun in front of people, and at first, she's like, get that gun out of my face. And then when he goes to someone else and gets the gun back, just the way she goes, get that fucking gun out of my face, and it's just sort of like, you feel that, she is so sassy. And we'll get more into the ending when it comes time for the sealed section of our podcast, because there's a lot that I want to say about the ending of the film. But yeah, because for me, and I know this is going to be sacrilege to so many people, and I am really sorry right now, but I thought the original Dawn of the Dead was a rather boring film. I'm just going to say it right now. It's great, don't get me wrong, it is. There's so many things I do love about it, but in terms of
It's
more,
great, but it's
but it's
boring.
boring. Yeah. Well, no, I mean it's great in that it on a technical level. I mean, all the zombies and everything. The characters were really cool. There were a lot of things that I did like about it. I just thought it was so slow paced, and compared to this one that just had this adrenaline shot to the heart of energy flowing through it from start to finish, and not just because of the running zombies, but just like Ving Rhames' character Kenneth.
He was
so
great.
cool.
Yeah.
So many of the characters were just so cool, and even ones that weren't
Except
there
for
for
one.
long. Oh, which one's that?
The daughter of...
Oh, so
the
you mean
daughter
the
that-
one who was looking after the dog and everything?
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't tell
yeah.
you why until the sealed section, but
Oh, okay.
she just annoyed me with
Nicole.
something she did, and it was just so stupid, and I was...
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
okay. We will talk about that.
Yeah.
See, yeah, I'm a little biased because I have a phenomenal
she's hot.
crush on Lindy Booth. Oh my god. There is something about that gigantic forehead of hers that I can't really... I don't know why it's so appealing, but anyway. But yeah, look, overall, this film, yeah, it just, from start to finish, it flowed so well. The characters were so great. It was a rock star of a movie, and yeah,
I'm just trying to
loved
think,
it.
have there been any zombie movies since this one that have been as exciting and interesting?
Zack Snyder did follow this up with it wasn't a direct sequel, but it was sort of a spiritual successor called Army of the Dead, which...
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as this film, I don't think. Honestly, I think this one was up there with the best remakes ever. And the funny thing is, because even Night of the Living Dead got remade in 1991 or 3, one of those two. And it was directed by Tom Savini, who, for anyone out there who's like, who the hell is Tom Savini? Tom Savini is widely regarded as the godfather of horror movie makeup effects. He's also, well, he had a role in the original Dawn of the Dead as the leader of a bikie gang. Actually, there were 3 actors who were brought back into the remake from Dawn of the Dead, because Tom Savini also played a sheriff on TV in the
That was
remake.
fun.
Yep. There's also an actor named Ken Foree who was in the original film, and in this one he was the priest who on TV was warning everyone, when there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth, which was the tagline for the original film. And also an actor named Scott H. Reiniger, who was one of the main cast in the first one, and again he was like a TV cop in this one. But yeah, Tom Savini directed the Night of the Living Dead remake, and that was also a very solid, remake. I don't know if that was as good as the original, but yeah, in the case of Dawn of the Dead, oh man, yeah, the remake all day, every day, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah. And so last week I gave you a choice of 3 films just based solely on their Rotten Tomatoes reviews, which is our system now that we're going to be doing. And you picked this one because it involved a review that said that you may bring up a bit of puke. Yeah, no, what was it? Sorry, a horribly funny addiction allegory, equally likely to make you feel sympathy and sorrow, or burp up a tiny bit of sick. And that is a film, 1988's Brain Damage.
And I don't agree with that review.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah. What did you think of Brain Damage? Do you want to tell us about it?
It was interesting.
And what's the film about, for those who have
you're
no
making
idea?
me do it.
I'm going to make you do it.
Well, it has a confusing start with a couple in their apartment, and the guy comes in and she's like, "Did you get it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I had to go further away." And then she goes into the bathroom. She pulls out, it's a pile of brains, and she goes into the bathroom and starts screaming and is very annoying and continues to scream. And then they're tearing the house apart looking for stuff.
Literally.
She's in the kitchen throwing plates out of the cupboard screaming, and I just wanted her to shut up. So annoying. Anyway, you find out that it's some creature that's disappeared from them and gone into an apartment down the hall to this guy, and yeah, I don't know, it's weird.
So yeah, it's basically about a creature named Aylmer who, if you attach it to the back of your neck, it will inject your brain with a hallucinogenic substance, which is a metaphor for any sort of drug, and you become addicted to it. But in turn, the creature needs to eat brains, and so that's the big payoff: is that in order to keep getting Aylmer's juice, you have to feed him brains. So yeah, look, man, it's one of those films that now I get why people would hate this film, even though it is a favorite of mine. I just think the drug metaphor is so well done. It's not subtle; it's very obvious, but it was a film that they used to screen sometimes late at night on Channel 10, at 10:30 at night or whatever. And I would always, if I saw it in the TV guide, I'd be like, "Oh my god, Brain Damage is on!" And then I bought the DVD, upgraded that to an Arrow release Blu-ray, which has got so much extra stuff on it. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something I love about it. Maybe it is that part of me. It is very weird, and it is not.
And it's kind of hilarious, like when you first see the creature and it pops up and it starts talking and it's got its little eyes and it just
with his little British voice, his gentleman voice and stuff. Like, I love his voice so much.
The first scene where he gets high from it and goes to the junkyard. I mean, what a performance from the actor, because he's just yelling and not as annoying as the woman screaming, but I just couldn't help thinking, okay, calm down. And he's not so over the top later on in the film, but yeah, it was...
But how amazing was the casting between him and his brother? Like, they look like they could be siblings. That was insane.
I know. For a second at the beginning, I was like, are they meant to be twins? Is that... It looks the same. And then I saw them properly and went, oh, yeah, they're not. They're just very similar.
Yeah. Because, there's this whole subplot, because he lives with his brother, the main character, Brian, which is very clever because, of course, it's an anagram of brain. He lives with his brother. He has a girlfriend, but the more he's getting addicted to Aylmer's substance in his brain, he sort of ditches his girlfriend in a way, and she ends up in the arms of his brother, and so there's this whole big sort of soap operatic dramatic element to it. But yeah, look, it's 80s horror movie schlock. I mean, the scene in the alleyway where he meets the girl in the club and goes out the...
Well, that was good, because I really liked the band in the club. I actually looked them up, the Swimming Pool Cues.
Right.
Because I really liked that song. And and then he's dancing like a maniac. Yeah. But she thinks it's hot, and so they go out into the alleyway, and that's got to be the most memorable scene.
Oh man, that was... I believe that was cut out for its initial release because it was a bit too graphic, but let's just say the young lady sings into his microphone, and and a microphone, it's Aylmer, and he wants brains, and you can pretty much guess where that one's going. But yeah, no, it's just it's one of those movies that I think it appeals to the side of me that loves movies that are so bad they're good, but it's not bad. That's the thing. It's almost bad. It's knocking on the door of bad and saying, "Hey, we want to live there." But I just think, with this, I don't know. There's a lot to it. Did you? Of course, it's directed by Frank Henenlotter. And did you notice the scene where he's on the subway train and
Yeah.
Dwayne from Basket Case comes and sits down with Belial in the basket,
and then
everything?
he's like, "You're too weird for me," so
Yeah,
he leaves again.
I thought that was a really cool little bit. But yeah, look, it's just one of those movies that. I mean, would you recommend it to people? Did you like it enough to recommend it?
Probably not, unless I knew for sure they were really into that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't think it's one that I will be watching a lot in the future.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's
Kind
fair
of
enough.
a kind of a one and done thing.
Right, right. Yeah, I was the opposite, of course, because I have it on both DVD and Blu-ray now, and I love the film. I find it immensely rewatchable. So,
I did
yeah.
like the visuals, like the first scene when it first happens and he's laying in bed and there's all like the light shades turning into an eye, and then there's like blue liquid coming in, building up next to the bed and everything. So that was pretty interesting.
It was. I thought they did a good job with the use of practical effects in it. I mean, yeah, some of them were very cheesy. You know, when you look at the light show in the the
Yeah.
car yard, like, I mean, that was just really bad special effects. But
Yeah, but it's kind of charming and
exactly,
the
yeah.
style of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, yeah, I'm always a fan of that film, and I'm glad you got to see it, even though you obviously didn't love it as much as I did.
I did read a review that apparently they only found one other review that also said you could read it as a thing about sexuality and how, he's shunning his girlfriend and the creature seems to be killing off the girls, but, is avoiding the brother. And then there's a character in the shower later
Yes,
avoids him.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah. I think there could have been a little bit of that in there.
I mean,
as
it's
well.
obviously the drug thing because it's so.
Yeah.
It's like Barbie level of non-subtle messaging.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But look, I mean, Dawn of the Dead's great. Brain Damage is great, but oh man, you opened my eyes to another film that is truly great. A film that I loved it so much. I watched it one night and then the next day I was like, oh, Kylie, you've got to see this film and I need to see it again. I watched it again the next day. I love it that much. And yeah, that is, of course, Heavy Trip, which is a Finnish film that is going to appeal to anyone with even a slight interest in heavy metal or heavy metal films or the scene or whatever. Oh my god, I am so happy that you introduced me to this film. So yeah, this one is about a Finnish band who of a bunch of lovable dumbasses. I mean, think Bill and Ted. Like that's the sort of characters you're getting in this film. Maybe slightly more intelligent. They've been playing for 12 years, but they've never actually played a gig. They only play covers, and then there's an opportunity that comes up for to play in a Norwegian festival, but the yeah, it does it or doesn't it? It's sort of one of those things where a lie gets out of control and all of a sudden the whole town just loves this band, and they're riding high on their success briefly until a whole bunch of things just come crashing down, and yeah, I will not say what happens in the end, of course. There is going to be a lot of talk about this film in the spoiler section. Oh, the sealed section, I should say. But yeah, oh man, what can I say? Thank you so much for getting me into this film. When did you first come across it?
I don't remember now how I found it. But I just remember it came out and I was trying to watch it and it took a while to make it over here. And then, I saw it was available digitally and it was on sale. So to purchase it, it was only like $4 or $5 or something, like the price of a rental. So
Yeah.
I grabbed it and yeah, it paid off because it was so good. But yeah, basically, I don't know, it just popped into my world somehow, and I was like, oh, movie about, if it's a movie about a metal band, of course I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. For me, one of the things I loved so much about the film was that I resonated with it so much. I'm watching the way that the main character, Turo, the singer, flicks his hair. And I'm just like, oh my god, I know so many people who do that. Like, he sort of grabs large chunks of the hair and flicks them back. And I'm like, I know that guy. And then I'm watching the rest of the band, and, there are all these characters who, I mean, they're in like a hardcore kind of, black metal, death metal grind band, and but they're just such nice, lovable guys,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, I love the way that the film shone a light on improperly pigeonholing people or judging people unfairly and stuff. And one of the best scenes in the film was when hit the love interest Mia, her dad, who's the police chief or whatever, is because of course Turo's getting around on his push bike, which I just love that image. And he pulls up next to him, and Turo's gotten a bunch of flowers to give to somebody, and the police officer is he's a really old guy, and he's like telling him, make sure those flowers don't wind up in your drug den and stuff. It's just like, man, like you, just because the dude's got long hair and is dressed in tight jeans and a leather jacket and everything doesn't mean that, he's into drugs or anything. I mean, he's obviously the most clean character. But, not only that, but I loved the scene when they're trying to come up with riffs, and pardon me, Lotvonen, the guitarist, he's come up with all these riffs that have already been done before, and Pasi, the bass player, is telling him exactly what the song is and stuff. And I had that moment happen to me recently. A few months ago, I thought of a riff in my head, and I'm just sort of humming this sort of like dun 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 dun, and I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And I actually went and recorded it. And thought, okay, I'll keep that aside, and one day I'll turn it into a song. Only a few days ago, I'm listening to a Foo Fighters album, and now I'm not a big Foo Fighters fan. I like them, but it's not a band I go out of my way to listen to or anything. And on their album, The Colour and the Shape from 1997, I'm listening to it, and track 3 comes on, a song called Hey Johnny Park. And I kid you not, the riff went dun 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 dun. I'm just sitting here, I'm like, what the hell? I've only ever heard that song maybe once or twice in my whole life, and obviously I ripped it off, and I'm like, oh man, I can't use that riff now, and I was so proud of it too. And so I'm watching that scene in the film, where the guy is playing like, Walk by Pantera and all these other songs, and I'm just thinking that you'd sort of think, oh, that's a bit of a silly scene, but no, it's probably real. I think a lot of people compare Heavy Trip to This Is Spinal Tap, and I've seen that a lot in all the things that I've been reading, and I think that's really unfair. I think just every music film, especially a rock film, is compared to Spinal Tap. But no, the main vibe that I got was the cartoon series Metalocalypse, with the band Death Clock. Have you seen Metalocalypse? Yeah. They really reminded me of the characters from Death Clock in a lot of ways. But yeah, that film, Heavy Trip, it had so much heart. It had such a wonderful message.
Review. What was that? The snippet you chose, it had a thing about having its heart on its sleeve.
Oh, it did too. Yep. That's right. I thought all of the characters were just so likable, so funny. It was hilariously funny.
I love that Pasi was just like very serious, very still. Like the others were running, he would just walk. And then when they kind of get things going with the band and they're like, oh, we need to take a promo photo, he like
Oh,
turns up with his like leather and spikes and the corpse paint, and then he's like, I'm, what is it, Zootrax?
Zootrex.
And
Yep.
that's just his new persona in the band now. And it's really funny too
Yeah.
because the black paint is makes him look sad, how he's done the black
It's
around the
yes.
eyes and the mouth. And so it's just really funny in certain scenes where someone's saying stuff to him and he just looks like he's really sad, but he's just there with his deadpan face like always.
Oh man, I got that exact same thing. Yeah, it just adds to the comedy of the
Yeah.
scene where, he just looks like you'd need to give him a big cuddle, because you've said something bad, but you don't want to because he's covered in nails and spikes and
Yeah.
stuff. Um, but yeah, no, I was really super excited to find out that there is a sequel now in post production called Heavier Trip, which. Yeah, there's a plot synopsis and everything on IMDb already for that one, and that's the thing. Yeah, there are so many movies that you watch it and you think, okay, that's a story that doesn't need to be elaborated on. Looking at you, Hell House LLC. But no, this was one I got to the end. Probably the reason why I watched it again the next day is because I just wanted to dive back into these characters
Yeah,
again.
that's the thing. The story in this is completely contained. It doesn't need a sequel. So, it's not like there's any sort of cliffhanger ending or anything like that that you need a sequel, but you just want it
Yeah.
because you just want to hang out with them some more.
Exactly, exactly. I just loved every character in this, even the sort of antagonist of the thing, Yoni. Is this sort of smarmy, local celebrity singer who's completely up himself, but he's kind of like. For those in Australia, he's kind of like a Dave Graney sort of a character in a way, with like a cheap '70s suit and stuff, and kind of a swing band or whatever, like But and yeah, he's vying for the heart of Mia, the local flower shop girl. And that was another thing as well that I loved is that you see Mia, she's always in these pretty dresses and her blonde hair all curly and stuff, and then you look at Turo, who's, got the longest hair you can imagine and just always in black with big boots and, a studded belt and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, I love the fact that she's into him and he's into her.
That happens a lot. It's quite common to see like a goth guy with a girl who's just wearing bright colors and
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
But
it's an interesting mix. There are people who
it
can,
is.
look beyond or are just
Yeah.
really into the rock look, even if they don't do it themselves.
Yeah, yeah, but it would have been an easy route for them to have a love interest who's a metalhead or something like that. But the fact that she was quite repulsed by their music, yeah, I thought that was kind of wonderful. So yeah, no, that is a film that man, I will be repeatedly watching that many more times in the future. But yeah, there is definitely stuff I want to talk about in the sealed section when that comes up, which
Yeah,
we're
hopefully
nearly
we
there.
have a chance to see the sequel at cinema. I'm not, maybe at a
Yes.
festival, if we're lucky. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, oh man, I need more of this world. So, yeah, but anyway, so yeah, thank you very much for introducing me to that film and giving me an opportunity to rewatch Dawn of the Dead
Yeah, well, I was
and I guess
looking
Brain
forward to
Damage.
Dawn of the Dead because, yeah, it's been a number of years since I've seen that one as well. So it was due for a rewatch.
Oh, absolutely. And my friend Steve is most likely going to be listening to this, and a shout out to him because he was on board with me from day one with that film. I got to make a little short zombie film once where Steve got to be one of the zombies, and it was in a video store that I worked. It was part of an inter-store competition where we had to make a promo video, and I wound up making a 5-minute zombie flick, and it was solely based on Dawn of the Dead. I even had one of the extras on the DVD, one of the special features, is this sort of news report thing that goes on and on. And, when we first see the two working at the counter, like I used that in the background as like the news bulletin. And I remember there was a scene where, because there were two different cover arts for the image. You know the poster art, the main one has got like a white, just all white with the side of a zombie's face.
Yeah.
They released it. I don't know why, but they released it with. Some of them had the zombie's face on the right hand side. Some of them had it on the left hand side, and so I just did this little comedic thing where when the zombies are in the store picking movies to watch, there was a bit where someone picks it up and has the two halves and puts it over Steve's face and like makes a full zombie image over him, sort of thing. So yeah, we've got a lot of fond memories of that flick. But yeah, so and I know Steve's watching, but anyway. But yeah, so we did decide on what our mutual film will be next week, and I'm a little excited.
Yes, this is another film that I've rewatched it more recently than Dawn of the Dead, but it's still been quite some time. I meant to rewatch the whole franchise, but I never got to it, so now I can start again and do it this time. And so we'll be watching Alien.
Woohoo! Which is, yeah, that is a film I have not seen in a long time, and I am so super keen to get stuck back into that one again. Because, yeah, initially we did have another 90s comedy film that is very dear to our hearts, but we thought, oh, we just recently did a 90s comedy, so let's think outside the box here. And, yeah, no, that was a very good choice with Alien. But we also have some picks for each other for our homework films. So would you like to go first? Do you want to read me the reviews that you've got, and I will choose a movie based on these?
So I've ventured out of Rotten Tomatoes for some of them, or maybe all. I can't remember, because well, two of them are not big mainstream movies, so they didn't really have any. So I've gone to Letterboxd where needed. So, okay, number one. Interesting and entertaining Swedish vampire flick. I could go into more detail about the plot, but honestly, either the phrase Swedish vampire flick intrigues you or it doesn't, and I doubt my talking about how funny and well done it is could sway your mind if you're one of the latter. I do wish I could find some clips of the talking dog sequences to share, though. Those cracked me up.
Oh man, how am I going to go past that? And I don't know of any Swedish vampire flicks. So,
yeah, I thought I could leave that in and it wouldn't be a big thing because it's not a really famous movie.
No, you did good there.
Okay, second movie. This was a fun watch. Mix a little Blair Witch with some Evil Dead and good things happen.
Ooh, oh, wow. Why have you just thrown in two of my favourite films into now the Swedish vampires and talking dogs are like, you know, taking a sideline. Okay.
When the weather warms up, I'm always eager to titillate my brain with cheesy, sleazy trash, and this is just the lo-fi, summery, galactic slab of cheesy carnage I needed on a Saturday night. The pinnacle of low-budget, high-ambition vision, the amount of sheer entertainment, gory chaos, and lasery-eyed slime creature mayhem it accomplishes is nothing short of impressive.
Oh my god. How... Wow. Okay. Look, I can't go past Swedish vampires and talking dogs. Honestly,
I thought that might
hell?
Sway you, so...
Was that the film you were hoping I was going to pick?
Well, it's one I haven't seen for quite a while. It's one that has mixed reviews, and I mainly remember one really hilarious scene. So,
all right. So, what film am I going to be watching?
It's called Frostbitten from 2006.
Okay. All right. I will endeavour to track that one down.
And the Letterboxd review is very synopsis is very vague, so pretty much going blind. Yeah, I don't know. I have the DVD. I don't know how I found it. If I just DVD was cheap and I bought it because it was a vampire movie. I think that was probably the case because I've never heard anyone talk about it.
No, I've not heard of this one. So, all right. No, I'm very looking forward to checking that out based on that. All right. So, as far as the three reviews that I have got for films that I would like you to see, and I would definitely like to rewatch. The first one, I figured I can probably say the director's surname because, yeah, you're not going to get it. So this is from Rotten Tomatoes. McNaughton's rough, non-judgmental direction gives the film a stylishly chilling documentary feel, while the killer's use of a camcorder asks some challengingly uncomfortable questions about voyeurism and the nature of screen violence. The second film, somebody on Letterboxd, because I couldn't really find too many. Apparently, this film wasn't really that critically adored, but I don't know why. So somebody on Letterboxd, though, who gave it a 5-star rating, said, "Wow, wow, 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 wow! I wanted to vomit the entire movie. I was so nervous. I love it."
Oh.
Yep. But kind of got a feeling maybe you might go with this one. So this is another Letterboxd review, a 4-star review for this film, and someone simply says, "The Citizen Kane of movies where a man karate fights a cow." So we've got challengingly uncomfortable questions about voyeurism and the nature of screen violence. We got "I wanted to vomit, I was so nervous, I love it," or "The Citizen Kane of movies where a man karate fights a cow." Which one are you leaning towards?
Well, I know you did tell me earlier there's one that you hoped I would pick over the other two, and I have a feeling what that one is.
Oh, yeah?
They're all quite vague apart from the last one.
Well, that's the idea.
All right, I pick the last one.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You, my dear, are going to be watching Kung Pao Enter the Fist, a film by a director named Steve Odekirk, who is one of my most favorite filmmakers. This guy is so diverse. He wrote Patch Adams with Robin Williams. He's directed a lot of stuff, not a lot of stuff, but some stuff with Jim Carrey as well. He sort of came out of that ilk, in the sort of mid to late 90s. But Kung Pao Enter the Fist, he also acts and he stars in this film. He actually bought the rights to a 70s Hong Kong film called, I think it was called Tiger and Crane Fists. But he digitally put himself into the film. He overdubbed the entire film on his own. Every voice is by him. And it is a movie that I went and saw it at the cinemas when it came out, and I think it was 2004, I want to say. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, this is the fucking stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life, but why am I crying from laughing so hard? It is mind-blowingly ridiculous. What's that?
I just saw someone's review, then they said Austin Powers but Asian.
No, you can't compare it to Austin Powers.
Okay,
it's nothing like that. Oh my god. No, imagine a Hong Kong martial arts film where someone has digitally inserted themselves into the film and has dubbed every voice. But yes, there is a scene where he fights a badly CG done cow. It's so silly. But it has a massive underground following. Like, so many people have been clamoring for a sequel ever since the film came out, because he hinted at a sequel at the end of the film, but it never happened. But yeah, oh my god, I am giddy with joy at the fact that you're going to be watching Kung Pao. Me and a friend, ever since we saw it the day it came out, we've been quoting this film since then. So we've spent 20 years quoting this film. And that was actually the one that I changed around, because there was initially another film that I had on there that was also directed by Steve Odekirk, and I was like, oh, that'll do. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, Steve Odekirk, oh my god, I've got to put Kung Pao on this list and kind of find the most enticing review that I can to lure you into watching it. So yes, all right, so there you go. So next episode will be a very mixed bag of Alien, Frostbitten, and Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
So we have martial arts, aliens, and vampires.
We do. And yeah, we've sort of like sci-fi horror, what sounds like horror comedy and just ridiculous martial arts comedy. So yeah, this is going to be quite an episode on the next one. So, all right. Well, listen, we're gonna we got the hot tub is all warmed up and bubbling, and the candles are lit, and we're gonna get into the sealed section now. So, thank you to everybody. We will say goodbye now because not everyone, of course, wants to hear spoilers about the movies we've discussed. But yes, if you've made it this far, thank you very much for tuning in, and we hope to see you on the next one. And yeah, if you don't mind a spoiler or two, then come take a dip with us. All right, so the first film. Well, we may as well go in the order of the films that we've just discussed. So, Dawn of the Dead.
So much spoiler talk.
So much spoiler talk. Well, look, I really want to get into the ending because I thought one of the reasons I loved the film so much was because of the ending.
You mean the very, very end?
The very, very end. So, yeah, the film ends, the boat sails off into the distance, but then, of course, we get that genius, brilliant handheld camera stuff where they find a video camera and document the rest of what happens. Now, I've read a few people who've commented that the ending is ambiguous, but I don't know what it says about me, but I just thought, nope, they got fucked up at the end. Yeah. Like, that was it. They perished. I mean, the boat sails to the island, and they set foot. Of course, Chips the dog just goes running off, and the incredibly hot Lindy Booth goes after him, you know. And then, you know, Kenneth has, of course, got the shotgun ready, but then you just see another army of zombies come running towards them, and the camera's just sitting there, but to me, they were outnumbered. There was no way they could have possibly... I think it's just
that horror thing of, you know, it doesn't specifically show you, so there's always the option that they could do something with it, which is a thing I really hate in films. I'm like, you know, just sometimes the villain can just die. They don't have to be ready to come back for a sequel. They can just stay dead. Yeah. So I guess it's that thing, because they didn't specifically show it, although I'm with you, I think it's pretty obvious from what you see. Like, how could they get away? They only had the boat or the ocean to go into.
Well, not only that, but of course it was shown that the boat's motor had blown because there's a fire that they're putting out, and there's the petrol. The fuel gauge is empty. They've run out of water. Like, it cleverly just shows us all these things in, and sometimes they weren't even there for a second. It was like just a quick show of what was going on, and so yeah, they couldn't get off that island. So to me, they were screwed. But did you notice? Now here's testing your movie trivia. Did you notice a link between the end credits of Dawn of the Dead 2004 and James Gunn's The Suicide Squad that just came out a few years ago?
You expect me to remember end credits from a movie I watched? Like,
not the credits, credits. Something else amongst the credits. Did you notice the link between those two?
No.
See, I'm sitting there, and the song comes up, "The People Who Died" by the Jim Carroll Band. You know that song, "All the people who died, died. All the people who died, died." And I'm thinking, hang on a second, that was, The Suicide Squad. They used that song in the end credits of that as well. And I'm wondering if James Gunn had a hand in that song going into the end credits of Dawn of the Dead, because, I mean, let's face it, it's something that Gunn does, is kill everybody in his films. Well, you know, as many people as he can get away with. And so I think that using that song in there as well was a clue that everybody died.
Wow.
Because,
you've read so deeply into these.
I
didn't even remember that song was in Dawn of the Dead end credits, let alone that it was in the Suicide Squad as well.
Well, I mean, I noticed it when I was watching Dawn of the Dead because that song came up and I was like, hey, that's the song that I really liked from the Suicide Squad. And that was in the end credits of that movie as well. And that had a shit ton of what you think are main characters getting killed early on in that film. And yeah, so I just thought that was really clever. But yeah, like I said, it added to my theory that everybody got wiped out in Dawn of the Dead. But what were you going to say about Nicole, who was played by the sensational Lindy Booth?
Oh, just, we almost got a movie without someone making a really stupid decision. Like, they had already confirmed that the zombies weren't paying attention to the dog. So why the hell is she getting in a truck and going over there
Yeah.
to get the dog back? Especially when apparently
Yeah.
it seems the plan was to do that anyway, to
I
get ammo
know.
and
I
stuff.
know. It was really stupid. And I do agree with you there. I mean, look, as a writing device, I guess it was.
Yeah, they had to get them over there and
Yeah,
everything.
so that made sense. But I do agree, it was a phenomenally stupid decision. I don't care how much she loved that dog. And they did a good job of foreshadowing that with her closeness to the dog and all that sort of stuff. Like, great stuff to them. But yeah, that was a phenomenally stupid idea. But did you get to watch the Andy's video
I
diary
did
stuff on the
because
DVD?
yeah, I really liked him. He did a lot with. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm always partial to a long-haired character. He had an interesting look, but he, for such a minor character, he brought so
Yeah.
much that I was like really I'd forgotten. Like I was pretty sure that he wasn't going to make it, but I didn't remember details from the last time I'd watched it, so I was really sad that
Sure.
he didn't make it. And I'm like, why didn't you shut the door quicker when the dog got in? Because it
Yeah.
was very slow.
I I loved how that DVD extra, because yeah, the DVD of that was just packed with great stuff. And yeah, for those who are wondering, so it's a video diary that Andy, the gun shop owner, was keeping throughout the zombie apocalypse, and it gives us an insight into how long the characters were in the mall, which was 28 or 29 days or something. But I loved also how on the two-way conversation that they in the main movie that they have with him during the moment where he gets bitten and everything, you then see it from his perspective, and I
Yeah.
just thought that was so freaking cool. But then yeah, the heartbreak of seeing him turn and stuff, and I love how they did that thing on VHS recorders where you saw little bits from his wife and child and stuff, which just made it even more heartbreaking. So yeah, that was really, really well done. I thought that was one of the best video extra features that I've ever seen, I think, in terms of sort of tying it into the film and giving you more. But yeah, was that all the spoilers you wanted to discuss with Dawn of the Dead? Because for me, it was mostly the ending.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I didn't really have anything spoilerish for Brain Damage. I got to be honest, I didn't even take any notes for that film because it's
Yeah.
just kind of a very simplistic, straight out film.
A lot of it is like the visuals and the vibe and everything. And the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
it's the same with Basket Case, like the whole kind of grimy New York thing that just
Yeah.
makes you feel a bit ugh, like um the place he goes to stay at. That
Oh, yeah, yeah. That was so well done.
apart from the guy in the showers who just totally looked like way too clean cut and whatever
Yeah.
to be living in a place like that.
Actually, we couldn't talk about the ending because I saw that apparently there were people who thought the ending of Brain Damage was ambiguous as well. But I mean, Brian shoots himself in the head, and then the police rush in, of course, and there's this weird scene where there's a giant hole in his head emitting this light. Which obviously the director was, doing something metaphorical there, but apparently there were people who were thinking that that was ambiguous, that it might have meant something else and that he lived. But to me, it was
Could he
just
live without half his head?
yeah, exactly. I mean, to me, the whole ending was kind of a metaphor for overdose, because of course, the old guy squeezes Aylmer, and Brian's brain, wow, gets flooded with the blue juice, which causes those big welts and like almost another head growing out of his forehead. But yeah, there's not a lot of spoiler talk about that film.
Yeah.
But Heavy Trip, on the other hand, let's talk about Yunku. Yeah, my God, were you the same as we were, like, when Yunku dies in the van crash, were you just like, holy shit, are you serious? Did you see that coming?
I don't really remember. I wouldn't have seen it coming because, like, the first time I watched it, I'd forgotten it this time until, like, a bit into the movie because, of course, they're setting up the other guy drumming.
Yeah. I was gobsmacked because I saw the van crash, and I love the comedic way the reindeer just trots off, off the road. But I thought, okay, they've ruined the van. I thought that was where that plot point was going to. And then the next thing, it cuts to a funeral scene. I'm like, oh, whose funeral are they at? It's like, oh my god, Yunku died. What the hell? Like, that just really got me because I loved his character. He was this, and I mean, you can probably understand why. He was this eternal optimist, when everything's going bad, he's still got a smile on his face and finding reasons why things are good, And I'm just like, oh man, I love this character. And then, then he got killed, and I thought that was shocking. But I get why they did it, of course, because there was the whole thing where he was saying that he was going to make it to the Norway festival even if he was dead. And so when they go and rob the grave and tie his coffin to the roof of the van and stuff, I'm just like, oh wow, that's actually really heartfelt. And then later on you see his coffin being, crowd surfing along and stuff. And I thought that was incredible. But it really added a whole other level of sort of heartwarming, touching storytelling for me.
It was good. It had enough fun in the movie that you weren't completely destroyed by it. So, and what happens after just still keeps you happy that they're on their journey to get there.
And they even made jokes about, throwing the pair of drumsticks, and then, of course, Lotvonen's got, the burger or whatever, which was, the something special for a special guy, And, of course, you go to Zootrax with his, and he's got the sort of the corpse paint's got tears coming down from it, which I thought was brilliant. But yeah, no, that scene really and even, Kylie gasped. I was like, what the fuck? We did not expect that to happen. That was very cool. But I guess that's another reason why people are comparing it to Spinal Tap, though, of course, because, there's that whole running gag in This Is Spinal Tap where their drummers constantly are dying, and they've gone through something like 30-something drummers in their time that they've been together. So I guess that probably maybe could have been a little bit of a nod to Spinal Tap, but I guess of all the band members, Yunku was probably the most expendable one, unfortunately. All right. So, is that all the spoilers you wanted to get out of your system?
I think so. That was the main thing to talk about with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, another goodbye to all those who have stuck through the sealed section. Time to pull the plug on the bath. Ooh, no, let's not talk about baths. Put your clothes back on and get yourself out of here. But so stay tuned because we will have our next episode. Of course, I am elongating this sentence so I can look at my calendar. That will be coming up on the 2nd of February. Thank you once again to everybody. Thank you to Jesse and his podcast as well for plugging us once again. If you want to go check out his podcast, it's called Freaky Friday, FREEK. They're actually in the process of discussing the Living Dead series, and they will be talking about Dawn of the Dead on their next one. So, sucked in, Jesse, we beat you to it. But no, thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. We hope that you've been enjoying all of this, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Farewell.